So you finally have decided to give role-playing a try, eh? Or maybe you're just curious about it? Well, don't worry, my friends, because you are in the company of an expert. I myself have been role-playing for years, and so today, I'm going to tell you about some of the different kinds of role-players there are lurking across Azeroth in the shadows. Now keep in mind that there are many different kinds of role-players, but this list, it should give you a good rundown of some of them. And keep in mind that this list is in no particular order. Number 1. The Day 1, I don't have a damn clue what the hell I'm doing roleplayer. Now, as the name suggests, this is a brand new roleplayer who has absolutely no idea what the hell he's doing. He's usually very shy, nervous, and maybe a little scared, so it's only natural that every other roleplayer will pick on him and call him a complete retard. Do not be surprised by this, however, as this is a completely normal phenomenon. Becoming a roleplayer is like a trial by fire, and this guy is the one currently walking through the flames. He has yet to learn good grammar, he has no knowledge of the lore, and most of his replies and emotes will consist of only 1 or 2 words because he doesn't have a damn clue how to respond to anything. He's a little man lost in a big man's world. Number 2. The approach me first, I'll be sitting alone in the corner because I'm too fucking cool to come and talk to you roleplayer. When a roleplayer finds himself to be way too fucking cool for the common folk, he becomes a sit alone in the corner roleplayer. Now some people might say that this is because he's just shy. But you know, people are dumb. I know better because I'm on the internet, so you can trust everything I say. The sit-alone guy usually sits in the back corner of inns or streets, showing off his darkest and most edgy transmog, just waiting for someone to approach him. And they never do. This usually leads to the scenario where the corner-sitting roleplayer has to listen to tons of conversations happening around him, none of which he's a part of. It's very awkward because having one of these things sitting in the corner listening to you while you're trying to talk about business can be sort of annoying. And please, for the love of Metzen, do not take pity on these poor souls and actually approach them. Otherwise, you are going to be told the longest, most boring, and most detail-polluted backstory you have ever heard. You have been warned. Number 3. I watched Full Metal Jacket one time, and so now I want to be a military roleplayer. If there's one breed of roleplayers that are the most vile and disgusting, it's the military roleplayers. These are the folk that pretend to be soldiers, get into formations, practice drills and such, and they pretend to actually have a sense of discipline. However, they do all of this roleplay in their completely messy bedrooms that are infested with old McDonald's cups and Gatorade bottles that they refuse to clean up. Now, the reason why this type of roleplayer should be avoided at all costs is because one of these roleplayers may eventually evolve into the I like to pretend I'm a general roleplayer. Now these kinds of roleplayers are the ones that lead the military events, and they yell at people, and they try to pretend that they have real authority over their fellow WoW players. They'll scream at them, belittle them, and all because their egos are so incredibly sensitive in real life that they need to pretend to be someone important online through a video game. And dude, let me tell you, I hate people like this. I am so glad I was never a role player like that. Number 4. The Not So Wise Druid roleplayer. Druids are some of the most cringy role players in World of Warcraft because of their obsession with ERPing in animal forms. But the worst kind of druid is the Elder Druid. The druid that claims to be thousands of years old and has the wisdom to boot. Or so they say. The issue is that these types of characters are usually played by 14-year-olds, meaning that if you ever need any sort of wisdom or advice, they're probably the last person you want to go to for help roleplay-wise. They'll stroke their long beards, do some long-ass emote about how they're listening to the wind or some shit, and then they'll quote some stupid Disney movie by saying some shit like, "Just listen to your heart, my son." Yeah, not really all that wise. If you ever stumble across an Elder Druid in roleplay, it is best not to use big words around them, otherwise they'll get confused, scared, and they'll excuse themselves from the scene. So, just kinda be nice to them. Number 5. The Lesbian Couple roleplayer. Now, as we all know, women do not play World of Warcraft, and women especially do not roleplay. But there are some guys out there playing as girl characters that think that women do. Pretty much what happens is some dude will start roleplaying as a slutty Night Elf Sentinel, and he will stumble across another dude who, like him, claims to be a girl in real life. They'll start talking with each other and flirting with each other and still keeping up the act that they're girls, and soon enough, you have this really awkward as fuck scenario where two straight dudes are having lesbian cyber sex over the internet because they think the other person is a girl in real life. They'll act out scenes from their favorite lesbian pornos, they'll interrupt roleplay events by making out all of a sudden, and sometimes you'll just be walking around a corner and spot them naked together behind an inn. It's really creepy. Give them 1 month, however, maybe 2, and they will figure out that their so-called girlfriend is actually a dude. They'll get really creeped out, and usually when that happens, they'll never speak to each other again. It's probably for the best. Number 6. The Dirty Peasant roleplayer. The Dirty Peasant roleplayer is an elitist form of roleplayer who thinks that everybody around them doesn't know how to roleplay properly. In their minds, everybody should roleplay as a stupid, uneducated, smelly street beggar who can't fight, spell, or even swim. Otherwise, you become what they call a special snowflake. The special snowflake insult hurts the dirty peasant's ego so much that they will go out of their way just to prove to you how unspecial they are. They will tell you about how they've never been in a fight before, how they just recently learned how to bake bread, and they'll go into heavy detail about how bad they smell for some reason. Because, I don't know, apparently smelling really bad makes you less of a Mary Sue in the role-playing world. Number 7. The Fuda Night Elf roleplayer. Now, when I say Fuda Night Elf roleplayer, I don't just mean the Fuda Night Elf roleplayers that are creeping around here and there. What I mean is the so-called roleplayers that dwell in Goldshire. Whether or not you are pretending to be a purple-skinned woman with a 12-inch dibble doesn't matter. If you go to Goldshire often and you consider it your home, you are a Fuda Night Elf. These are typically the kinds of roleplayers that outsiders tend to think of when they think of role-playing servers. They imagine their strange and graphic roleplay descriptions, and they cringe heavily at the idea of a greasy man sitting behind a keyboard having cyber sex all day. It's completely understandable. Let me just say to you outsiders, however, that as you can tell from this video, roleplayers just have this very rich and sophisticated culture. And so, don't let the Fuda Night Elves ruin your image of roleplayers. Don't. Number 8. The Depressing Tier 2 Paladin in the Cathedral District roleplayer. There is nothing sadder and more depressing in the world of Azeroth than this guy. You see this Paladin? If you thought your life was terrible, this guy's gonna put you to shame. He spends forever to get a full Tier 2 Paladin set from vanilla. Then he just sits in silence. If you were to approach this type of roleplayer, he would tell you the most sad and depressing backstory of your life. He'll tell you all about how his father was abusive to him and his mother, how his wife died in childbirth trying to deliver their second child, and how his only daughter was captured by pirates, sold into slavery, and now she's a tavern wench in some unknown land he'll never be able to find. A puddle of water always looms beneath this roleplayer due to all the tears that he sheds. Number 9. God. Did you know that God himself plays WoW? Did you know that he also plays as an undead rogue? Well, now you do. This type of roleplayer tries to be perfect in every way, not letting himself get touched by attackers, and never displaying any sorts of faults. He will constantly brag about how amazing his backstory is, how every woman wants to sleep with him, and how nobody can beat him in a fight. I hate this guy. If you ever stumble across this type of roleplayer, just avoid him at all costs, because he's the type that will ruin every single event where he does not get his way. He'll cry and he'll complain about how you're not letting his character be the super awesome badass that he's supposed to be. And then he'll ruin the mood and just run away. He thinks he's perfect and amazing in every way, but he's actually just an annoying little shit. And number 10. The "My life is a dark abyss of pain and darkness and hatred" Demon Hunter. Demon Hunters might be the new upcoming class in Legion, but that does not mean they aren't being roleplayed right now. Demon Hunters literally think they are the coolest thing since sliced bread. They wear the darkest armors, have the most bloody backstories, and they are covered in scars. Seriously, these guys will go into extensive detail about every fucking stupid scar on their body, which causes most people to just roll their eyes. They also tend to make lots of images of their characters on DeviantArt looking ominously over their shoulders and frowning like they just had their birthday cake taken from them. It would be cool, maybe, if these Demon Hunters weren't roleplayed by sweaty 12-year-old boys. Now, if done right, these types of roleplayers will avoid contact with other players, and instead, they'll just circle jerk with other Demon Hunter roleplayers out in Felwood over how cool they think they are. However, sometimes one will stumble into a major city or a town, and they may end up standing directly beside the "approach me first, I'll be sitting alone in the corner because I'm too fucking cool to come talk to you" roleplayer. They work well together, you could say, because they'll both sit there together, and they won't say a word. And that's it, my friends. I hope that this guide really helps you as you step into the realm of role-playing and begin to interact with its player base. Now, you might be thinking to yourself after hearing all that, Nixxiom, are role-players really just a bunch of edgelord sex-craved Bigglethorpes? To which I must say, yes, my friend. Yes, we are.